You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
Nobody knew that healthcare could be so complicated.
Trump was a failure on healthcare.
Hundreds of thousands of black Americans lost healthcare insurance. That is outrageous.
And if he's president again, he would cancel insurance for millions more of us.
We cannot go back. President Biden and Vice President Harris have lowered healthcare premiums and expanded coverage for black families. They also capped the price of insulin at $35. Joe Biden is getting the job done for people just like me.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. But since we don't have any new callers, why don't we get started? Make sure this is on with, turn up the volume, Nico.
Well, I was just listening to the After Dark, listening to Pedro, got his first ticket. Bro, I'm so stoked for you. That is just, I mean, the fact that they came down to where you live. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know how long you've been a Packer fan, but the chances of you thinking them coming to your country and playing, it was 1,000,000,0 or 1,000,000,000. I mean, I didn't even think the Packers were ever going to even, play overseas. But that is just awesome. I hope you have a great experience. Clearly, I hope we beat the crap out of the Eagles. That's just not what I'm saying. And maybe you can answer. There's all this questions about wearing green in the city. It's illegal. It's a gang thing. It's just the city's rival. And then they picked two green teams to go there. So what's the deal with that? Can any of the teams wear any green? I mean, are the Eagles going to be all white and the Packers be all yellow? I don't know. That would be weird. But, we should send you some brats. Ryan, you talk about people in a couple of states over that don't know what a brat is. Obviously, I was raised in California, so I thought a brat was just something you'd call your sister when she was mean to you. And I remember my first barbecue in, some park in Watertown, and everyone's grilling stuff. I'm like, wow, this is cool. All these people like hanging out and stuff. I was not used to that. And this dude was making these sausage-looking things, and hey, what's that? He goes, it's bratwurst. I go, what's that? Sounds German. He's like, you don't know? And I said, no, I don't know what that is. I'm from California, fool. And so he just slapped one on a bun, threw some kraut on there, scored some mustard. And I didn't even know what sauerkraut was. I'm not a particular fan of cabbage, but whatever. And I had like tiny little angels in my stomach, singing hallelujah when I took a bite of that thing. And I instantly got a little mad at my own father. I'm like, you raised me and had me for like almost 20 years. You never fed me a bratwurst? What's wrong with you? But, I had to forgive him in my heart. But anyways, Pedro, super stoked for you. That is just awesome. But yeah, let us know about the green thing. Just kind of curious about that. So, hey, go Packer, go.
So I know Pedro did address that. We've had so many people comment on it that, I'll be honest, I kind of forget exactly what the truth is, but it has something to do with, first of all, the gang thing I think is nonsense. Not to say that there isn't, there aren't gangs there and whatnot, and I don't know. But the green thing has nothing to do with gangs. It's just a team thing, and it's really just, it's a non-issue. It really is a non-issue. It will not go away. You can go there, you can wear green. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, otherwise, I was a little surprised, and it sounds condescending, like if people come from out of state and it's like, you don't know what a brat is, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, you don't know what you don't know. You just assume everybody kind of has this same information. I remember, like, when I was in Illinois, they talked about all the weird things that they said in Wisconsin. They're like, do you know what they call a water fountain up there? And I was like, no, I should, but I guess I don't. They're like, a bubbler. I didn't know that was a Wisconsin thing. I just thought it was interchangeable. Same with like soda and pop. I didn't know there was like a war going on. I just used all this stuff interchangeably. I didn't know that certain people didn't know. It's just like, what they call what I don't think soda. Everybody knows what soda is, but so yeah, it's just that was the same kind of thing. There was somebody came up from the south, and I was driving her around or whatever, and just for whatever reason, brats came up. She's like, "What is a brat?" I'm like, "Are you serious?" Like, I didn't know that it was so landlocked, which is weird because it's so good. I mean, it's 10 times better than the freaking hot dog. I mean, don't get me wrong, Chicago style, and when I say Chicago style, I just mean like Vienna beef on like a good bun or whatever. I don't eat pickles and all that relish crap. But I mean, a good hot dog is fine, but a brat, dude, it's not even close. It's just not close. As far as like the sausages go, I'm not sure there's really competition with brats. It's just so good.
Hey, what's up, Ryan? Kyle from Madison. How are you?
Good.
So I'm just going for a walk here. You might hear this cardinal above me
okay.
chirping. The Nico, somebody said I had an eagle perfectly timed screeching while I was talking. I wish I was that with it. But just listen to your podcast on Jordan Love. So forgive me because I don't have the information in front of me, but I was messing around just looking at his stats, I'm pretty sure that I concluded that the tear that he went on at the end of the season, where he went 18 touchdowns, 1 interception, like, is so historic that in the Packers annals, you'd have to go back to Rodgers, like, ridiculously dominant, the way he finished 2016 and then the way he started 2017 until the collarbone injury to find a parallel, or comparable stats, which, I mean, that was Rodgers. That's the greatest quarterback play I've ever seen in my life, what Rodgers did in 2016, especially considering the cast he did. That was an insane bit of quarterbacking. So, statistically, that's outrageous if Love's even in the same sentence with that year. But I'm pretty sure that's the only, and then maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I'm out for a walk, but I thought that was the only thing I found. And so I'm curious, though, historically, and if you already did this on a pod, I apologize if I missed it, but historically, how many people have ever done that? How many people have ever gone like 18-1 or 18-2 as far as touchdown interception? That's got to be an awfully small list. So people are looking for, reasons to feel good about him. I mean, there's a lot there, man. I mean, even his bad games, I'm just in the process of going back and watching most of the games I can get my hands on. I've got most of them saved in my DVR or whatever. But even his bad games, man, dude's making plays every game, whether they won or not. You go back and watch, and there's a couple throws every game where you're like, holy crap. But it would be interesting if you're able to bring up any stats on anybody that's ever had that kind of streak, and who are those people, I know you kind of went through that with, people coming on late in the second half, but I don't know if they've done it at an 18-2 clip. I mean, that's insanity. So, I mean, is it possible Jordan Love has 35 touchdowns, 5 interceptions this year? Yeah. I mean, I think it is, with another 2 or 3 rushing, 38, 39 total. I wouldn't bet against it, really. So anyway, just something to think about. Love the show, bro. Talk to you later.
It's a good question. I'm working on how to figure that out. Tell you what, this is taking entirely too long. By the way, there isn't going to be a podcast tomorrow, partially because I spent so much time pulling data on a little mini project. I didn't expect it to take as long as it is, but it is taking quite a while. I'm working on the whole new defensive coordinator. How does that affect the defense thing? And it's tough because you'd have to know the rankings of all the defenses over a period of time, and then obviously different years, different teams get different coordinators, and then how do you... It's a whole frickin' thing, but it started to get really, really late, and I was like, I'm not going to get it done. So fortunately, you guys called in. There were like 3 calls, so I'm like, oh, this is all I have to do today, so I got to try to get it done. And then I saw there were 9 calls. I'm like, all right, sweet. But let me tinker with this a little bit. I don't have an answer on that. I'm guessing you're probably right, that the answer is a very, very low number. But I got to work on this a little bit.
Hey, man, this is Jared, the Uber driver from Texas.
Hey.
Just wanted to wish you a happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
It happened to actually be, I consider my first Father's Day because my daughter just turned 1. So
congrats.
You know, fun times. But yeah, we were actually just on vacation too. We went to Disney World and Universal Studios.
Nice.
Which is a pretty special place to us now, you know. So 2 years ago on June 6th, my wife and I got engaged in Disney World, and then June 6th last year, our daughter was born. So
nice.
A lot of stuff happened in June for us. And dude, if you haven't been to Universal Studios, it's a great place to go. And they're adding a whole different park soon. Dude, it's pretty awesome. But yeah, just wishing you a happy Father's Day. Go Pack, go.
Well, I'm definitely pro Universal Studios. I know I loved it as a kid. I know it's changed a lot. I think that's where they got the Harry Potter stuff and everything. But I always loved it, man, because it's where you had all the movies. You had Back to the Future. I think I've mentioned before we made like a Star Trek video there. It's just fun, you know, Jaws and all these relatable movies, E.T., which, you know, I don't know what's there and what isn't anymore, but for whatever reason, my wife it's not on the top of her list. So the first year we went to Disney. That was like 9 years ago. And then we discovered SeaWorld, and I just have a hard time thinking we're going to be able to get away from SeaWorld. One of these days we will. Either we're going to make a bunch of money or have a bunch of money and go to more than one thing, like SeaWorld and Disney, which when we do SeaWorld, I'm talking like Discovery Cove, SeaWorld, the water park, Busch Gardens, like that's all one package. So if we did an additional one on top of that, that would be kind of a lot. But anyway, I do want to get to Universal sometime. I think it's super cool. I think the kids would love it. Just haven't had a chance to get there. But congrats on, the Father's Day stuff and everything. It's pretty good times. And, yeah, don't think, by the way, that your kids are too young for that. Not that your kid's going to remember, but just do it, man. It's good memories. The kid, when they grow up, they're going to enjoy the pictures and everything else because, I don't know. Time flies by, and then you just didn't do anything with your kids. So if you have an opportunity, just do it. Don't overthink stuff. Not saying you have to, but I don't regret doing it. All right, we're going to take a break here. It might be a little early, but we've only got 6 calls. So we'll do Kyle, Steve, and Randy. Take a break and do Garrett, Kyle, and Kyle. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com. You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com. You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com. You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
Hey, what's up? It's Kyle from Madison.
Hey.
All right, I need a food ruling.
Okay.
We had this discussion, some people tonight. I want to get your takes. I could see it both ways, but are raisins candy?
No.
Or are they a fruit?
It's a fruit. I lost you. What happened? Why did it stop?
I can see it both ways. You know what I'm saying? Like, because our definition for candy is like it had to have been made from something. And it's like, well, yeah, raisins don't grow as raisins. They grow as grapes.
Okay, first of all, terrible definition of candy. Made from something? We got to work on that definition a little bit.
They're made in raisins, like a hyper sweet thing.
It's a dried fruit. It's a dried fruit. That's what it is.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of sugar and raisins, right? If I ate like 300 grapes, you would think I was a weirdo, but I definitely could eat 300 raisins. I'm sure about that. It's just got a ton of sugar. But I can also see...
Well, and I don't know that it necessarily has any more sugar to it. I think it's just, it's dried. So the ratio of water to sugar is off. So it's just like compressed sugar, right? So, but I would guess, you know, unless somehow through the process you lose a little bit of the sugar, or who knows what kind of weird chemical things go on. I don't know. But that would be my thought, is the water just kind of leaves the grape and it just becomes whatever the grape is and the compressed, condensed sugars in it. But yeah, it's just a dried fruit.
No, it's a health food thing. It has vitamins in it. Because I kind of get the same reactions from raisins as I do from other health foods, where it's kind of like innate disappointment. You know, like I'll see a bowl and be like, oh, okay, I thought it was maybe chocolate, but it's raisin. Well, okay, all right, you know, I'll cope. But you know, you put raisins in cookies too, though. Sure. You know, so I never really thought about it like that, but I'm just interested.
You put apple in pie, doesn't make it a fruit. I mean, a candy, you know. I mean, it's just because you can make fruit into a dessert doesn't mean it's become candy. You know, it's like, well, that makes it like chocolate. No, that makes it like fruit. It's what it is.
Where you come down on the raisins as fruits or candies? A hot take.
All right. Well, I feel like that's the easiest thing ever, but let's take 2 seconds here. Let's go to the robot. Maybe I'm missing something here. I'm just going to ask it to define fruit and define candy, and let's see what we can get here. Fruit is a mature ovary of a flower plant. All right, now we're getting weird. Why? What? Never mind. Usually contains seeds. Natural foods source rich in essential vitamins, minerals, fibers, and antioxidants. They come from various shapes, sizes, colors, and flavors. They can be classified into several categories, such as berries, citrus, drupes, palms, tropical and exotic fruits, melons, multiple fruits. I don't know what that means. Pineapples and figs fall into that category. Candy, also known as sweets or confections, is a type of food primarily made from sugar or other sweeteners. So, I mean, right off the bat, you know, the definition that it's made from something, no, it's not. That would be like saying beef jerky isn't meat. It's like a processed friggin', I don't know what it is. Meat. It's just dried meat. It's not made from something. Candy is like taking sugar and putting it together into a shape and calling it a food. Type of food primarily made from sugar or other sweeteners. It's usually flavored, colored, and sometimes shaped into various forms. Candies are often high in sugar and calories, with little to no nutritional value. There are several types of candies: hard candy, soft candy, chocolate gummies, marshmallow, licorice, sour candy. All right, let's just ask the obvious question here. Raisins are dried grapes. You dry harvested grapes in the sun till they're shriveled into small, dark, sweetened versions of the original fruit. Raisins are rich in natural sugars, mainly fructose and glucose, fiber, vitamins, especially vitamin B, minerals such as iron, potassium, and calcium, and antioxidants. They provide a quick source of energy and have various health benefits when consumed in moderation. And then I just asked the question, and it said, raisins are a fruit. It says they are dried grapes, and grapes are a type of fruit, while raisins are sweet and can sometimes be used in a similar way to candy. They're not considered candy because they are a natural whole food with nutritional benefits, unlike candy, which is typically processed and high in added sugars. I don't want to make fun of your friends, Kyle, but good Lord. Get some new friends.
Howdy, Ryan. How we doing today?
Good.
Hope everything's going well. It's a nice, sunny morning here up in Alaska. We finally gotten ourselves a good spell of nice weather, and snow's all gone, melting away off the mountains. Rivers are starting to run high. But I wanted to call in because I was listening to your deal going on about Christian Watson's dad and the whole wide receiver one thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know why people make, especially Packer fans, especially us, why we make any kind of an issue about whether or not we have a number one wide receiver. You look at Tom Brady, all his Super Bowls, other than Gronk, which isn't a wide receiver, that's a tight end. He never had a number one wide receiver in any of those Super Bowl victories. Okay? He had one when he made it there with Randy Moss, but they lost. If you look at our Super Bowls, we never had a number one wide receiver on those teams. The Aaron Rodgers team, there was no clear number one. There was a whole lot of number two on that team. And then you go back to Brett's years. I mean, maybe somebody wants to say Antonio Freeman was a number one, but I never thought he was a number one. I mean, yeah, he got numbers, but I never thought he was like, oh my God, you put him on some other team, and that team's just going to be like, wow, look at this wide receiver. He was good. He was, solid number two. And I don't think anybody else there was a number one. I just think the best thing to have for an offense is solid players across the board in the skill position area. If you are high level solid, not number one, but all number twos everywhere you go, what's the opposing defense going to do to you? How can they take away any one thing when any one thing could be the thing that day? So I think everybody needs just to cool their jets and relax themselves about it. We have a talented wide receiver core. We have a number one level wide receiver core. And that's what matters. Not whether or not we have one great wide receiver. Because, again, lots of teams have had great wide receivers. When Calvin Johnson was over in Detroit, that's obvious number one wide receiver. But were they making playoffs and Super Bowls? Heck no. Because that one player doesn't make all the difference. That's just my point on it. I think we all need to stop worrying about that particular stat. We just want to make sure that we have great players everywhere. We don't have to have, other than the quarterback, we don't have to have an elite player anywhere. All right, man. I'm going to go. Catch you later. Bye.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to pretend it's a bad thing to have an elite wide receiver, right? If Tyreek Hill was available and was like, hey, I'll come over there for free, I'm not going to be like, nah, because then we have a number one and we can't mess up defense or whatever. Obviously, that would be a massive benefit. I guess I more so just wanted to kind of put in my 2 cents. I mostly didn't because I, like you, didn't really care. I mean, I want a good football team. And I also know that we can't really define any of these guys yet. I don't know where anybody's at. I tend to feel like Dobbs, we know what he is. Not that he can't get any better, but I don't know that he gets unbelievably better. I still have high hopes for Watson, for Reed. We'll see about Wicks. I relatively skeptical, but the guy was incredibly consistent. So, I mean, we're trying to define a thing that we haven't even seen yet, in a sense. We have no idea what these things actually look like. So, but still, with that said, there's just no data in my mind to say that we have a number one, much less four number ones, I guess was my conclusion. If you didn't hear that podcast, that was my conclusion. Feel free to call. We got 4 more calls. We'll see if somebody disagrees, but I just, in no way could I possibly twist it. I think there were 2 definitions that if you really twist it hard, in one sense, Romeo Dobbs is a 1, and in one sense, Wicks was a 1. But that was it. 1 at most, and that's only with very loosely defined definitions of a 1.
Hi, Ryan. It's Randy, Minnesota.
What's up, man?
I liked how you described the contract situation. It's more of a confidence meter than an actual how much he's going to actually get paid. That's a very interesting way to approach it, and I do agree with it. And when we're talking about, well, is Jordan the next great quarterback for Green Bay? Is he even good? I think the fact, as you have said, that the first half of the season, I think between the players, the coaches, no one really knew what they had or how to apply what they had.
Yeah.
And it took a half a season. The fact that Jordan was able to hang in there, still have the team back him, because they know better. They know better than anybody else what this guy is. And they were still backing him. That tells me that, this guy's going to be pretty darn good. And we should be pretty excited about it. Yeah, there will be a bad game here or there. That's going to happen to anybody. But the fact that he hung in through half a season and then everybody clicked at once, that shows a lot of leadership. That shows a lot of tenacity. And it shows that LaFleur had to take some time to really remember how to coach again, because he couldn't afford to upset Rodgers when he was here. And I just think it means a lot. So I hope Jordan gets, like you said, a big boy contract. I was just over in Wisconsin over the weekend. We had a discussion with several family members, and I wish I would have approached it like you did, because I think I could have convinced them. They're all worried about how much money, how we're going to do anything, and they're not looking far in the future when the cap goes up. But anyway, thanks for your perspective. Go Pack, go. Bye.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. There's so many variables, and almost every time somebody comes up with a contract, you feel like you've attacked it from every angle, and then you see it, and you're like, oh crap, I didn't see that. It's like that quote from Michael Scott. I forget exactly how it goes, but it's like, that could have gone one of two ways, but I never expected it to go that way, or something like that. Like, you think you've got it figured out, and then another thing emerges that you didn't necessarily expect. So, and I expect that to be the case here. There's going to be some interesting things in here. But as far as like panicking about it, I mean, what is the worst case scenario? There are scenarios that are bad, but the Packers are not going to put themselves in a situation where we're screwed. I mean, no teams do that, even stupid teams. I mean, you want to talk about screwed. The situation we had with Aaron Rodgers was about as screwed as a team could get. That was brutal. On top of the fact that we've been kicking the can down the road for a long time, then we slammed this unbelievably massive contract on top of it. I mean, we were strangled, absolutely strangled. But we made it work. We didn't have to kick anybody off the team or anything like that. I mean, obviously there's flexibility and things like that, but they understand who's under contract. They understand what needs to get done. I know Gutekunst had made some comments about Kenny that kind of made it seem like, yeah, we want to do something with Kenny, but we got to see what happens with Love first. But I mean, that obviously, if they're determined to keep Kenny, they're going to keep Kenny. If they're kind of on the fence about it, then then they're on the fence about it. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, there's a million different variables, but one of the variables is not the Packers are just going to blindly walk into something, slam a bunch of money on the table, and then we're just screwed. That's just not one of the things, Obviously, the worst case scenario is we pay him a bunch of money and Jordan's bad. But I hate to break it to you, we could pay him no money, and if he's bad, we're screwed. It's not about the cap in that situation. It's about the fact that Jordan's bad. So we're going to act as though Jordan is not bad, and we're going to continue as such. Because, look, here's the bottom line. Let's say we give him a ton of money, and let's say it's not actually like I've been hypothesizing like a 2-year. It's like a solid 4-year contract, and it turns out Jordan sucks. What do you think the earliest is that we're going to be able to fix this situation? He's going to play this year. He's not going to be very good. We're not kicking him off the team. He'll be there in 2026 as well. If he's bad in 2026, now we start the process of trying to find a quarterback. At best, in 2027, we draft a quarterback, right? And now we have a quarterback competition in 2027, with 2028 sort of being the last year, which, of course, even with a hefty contract, it's one of those things we can eat the salary cap. So we allow the guy to sit for a year, and if we think he's ready the next year, he's going to play, and Jordan goes bye-bye. If he's not, then Jordan plays again, like garbage, and we do something, after the fact. I mean, again, it's not the contract that's the problem. If Jordan is bad, that's the problem. If Jordan is good, it doesn't matter. You want to talk about first world problems? Go complain to a Bears fan about, oh, this elite quarterback's so expensive. And by the way, if any fan base should know how to act, it's Packers fans when it comes to this quarterback is too expensive. Bro, we have not had a team that wasn't weighed down by an expensive quarterback contract. That's like every year of our existence for 30 years. Over 30 years now. I mean, from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to now Jordan Love. You think just suddenly we don't know how to do it? Suddenly there's no money? Like, what is the fear here? We're going to be all right. It's going to be fine. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Have you ever experienced turbulence on a flight and wondered why?
And you can see all the terrain around you. You've got no issue with visibility or anything?
No, everything's PG.
Maybe you've sat on the tarmac for hours wondering why your plane isn't moving.
Well, we're outside here. They're saying the ramp is closed. They won't let us park because of Air Force One.
Listen in on the conversations between pilots and air traffic controllers on the Air Traffic Out of Control podcast.
512 Whiskey declaring an emergency. There's smoke in the cabin. I need to make a landing right now on 31 left.
We have the most interesting, wild, and funny ATC recordings you will ever hear. Check out Air Traffic Out of Control wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Hey, Ryan, it's Garrett from Southern Illinois.
What's up?
Sorry I haven't called last week. Been down now with an upper respiratory virus.
Yikes.
And anybody that says they've had it, man, that stuff is legitimately, I can't even talk. It is legitimate. One of the worst things I've had in a long time since I had COVID. I've been sick since Tuesday. So anyways, I didn't get to call in and wish you a happy Father's Day. I hope you got some ugly ties or cartoon socks and kids prepared you a veggie tray that you liked. Me, I just spent it on the couch. Didn't get to really celebrate it. Like me, probably most fathers, all they really want to do is celebrate Father's Day, doing the one thing that made them fathers in the first place. So I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough.
But, oh well, it is what it is. I just wanted to call in and ask you, after all this circus surrounding these contracts and everything, it's just really got me thinking, there are some pretty bad contracts out there right now. And I was just wondering if you wanted to rank, what are your top 5 worst quarterback contracts that are out there right now? If you struggle getting the 5, you can add somebody else in there too if you want. That's not a quarterback. But Deshaun Watson definitely rings true for me as being one of the top 5 worst. But I was curious what you think are your top 5. I'm out.
All right, let's play. I mean, I know that, I shouldn't say I know, but I have a strong inclination that, what am I looking for? Where's position? All right, so right off the bat, you have to look at Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, as far as, again, going back to the average percent of cap signed, he was given the 8th most, 22%, so $46 million. And I go back to the average percent of cap thing. again, because when I say 46, it's like, oh, that's not bad. But you got to get yourself in the headspace of 2022, right? That was a stupid amount of money. I would lean Kyler Murray. We'll see. I mean, he may have a big bounce back, but it's been pretty bad. He got actually more than Watson did, 22.1%, $46.1 million, 230 total, 160 is practically guaranteed. Boy, after that, I mean, you could look at Daniel Jones getting his 40 million. Did you say quarterbacks, or did I just make that up? Yeah, you said quarterbacks. All right, good. That's going to save me some time. So so we got Daniel Jones, Watson, Murray. I need two more. I think Aaron Rodgers might be the best, although if he doesn't step foot on the field, that's rough. I mean, nobody else is really getting paid. Geno's paying off. Baker's paying off at just $33 million. Cousins they got for 17%, $45 million. I think that's a pretty solid deal for a guy that's been a top 10 quarterback. Stafford, we'll see with the injuries. $40 million in 2022. That's 19.2%. Goff getting 53. I don't know that that's all that terrible. Lawrence, I mean, it's a little bit more than Goff, but I mean, he seems to be at least a starting quarterback, and he's only 24 years old. Jalen got almost 23%. I mean, he's a good quarterback, though. Mahomes obviously is solid. Lamar is solid. Herbert got 23%. Allen, I don't know, man. I don't know that there's any other bad contracts. I mean, you know, there might be things that you look back in hindsight and say that didn't work out, like Burrow. If you know, I mean, he got top. And obviously things have been getting a little rocky with the injuries, but I'm assuming he's going to stabilize. We'll see about Lamar. He's a little up and down, and he's got a lot of injury issues. Herbert maybe is slightly high. I don't know. We'll see with Jalen. A lot of people are down on Jalen, I think, because the team took a downturn, but I don't think it was Jalen's fault. I think the defense in particular really took a crap. Maybe Dak. I mean, if you forced me to pick one more, it would probably be like Dak and then maybe Trevor Lawrence. But, you know, there's not a lot of other guys. I mean, you could say Derek Carr, but he's at 37. It's not even 17%. So that's about it, man. I'd say there's like 3 bad contracts. What else let me look at some other ones here. Other positions. So the highest percentage-wise for a running back is actually Kamara. He's at $15 million, which was 7.57% in 2020. So what Kamara got in 2020 is higher than what McCaffrey got. But you also got to figure that was in 2020 he signed it. So, I mean, it's, you know, I don't know. At the time, probably a pretty good signing. Saquon is rough. I mean, I don't know. About receivers, what do we got here? Not seeing anything terrible. I mean, all these guys are good receivers. I'm sure some of this is not where it should be. Christian Wilkins being the second highest paid defensive tackle is a little, I mean, in terms of average salary and overall, as a percentage. I like Wilkins being paid a higher percentage than Quinnen Williams. And, you know, I don't know. Anyways, outside of the scope of what we're doing here. Kyle, close us out, man.
What is up, buddy? Kyle from Madison. I just about halfway through your pod about who's the number one receiver and all that. And it's interesting because I've been meaning to call with the comment I'm going to make here, and you kind of touched on it in your pod today, so it was kind of even more pertinent. But my comment is, and I don't really care about number one or what number two receiver, any of that stuff. One thing I want to say, though, I'm in the process, like I said, of rewatching the season on my DVR, and definitely one thing that has been hitting me hard as I'm watching this is how important Romeo Dobbs is. And I know I don't want to speak for you, but I think you're less high on him, maybe, right? Or maybe you don't know where he fits. I'm not sure. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I have
somewhere in that
kind of heard that general sense that maybe he's just not a guy. And And again, I'm not saying you're saying that. That feels like that's out there in the zeitgeist a little bit, and I just couldn't disagree more. Granted, he doesn't have top end speed. He doesn't have top end anything. But there's no freaking way we make the playoffs without Romeo Dobbs last year. Like, that guy was such a huge, possession receiver for us, I guess. Is that even a term still? When I say possession, I'm thinking he moves the sticks. He can make some really difficult catches. He's not an over-the-top guy, He moves the sticks, fights through the zone. He's such a natural from the slot. Dobbs, it was unbelievable. I don't have the all-22. I don't know, but it was unbelievable last year. The half of the season I've watched so far, and I know there's more of this to come, especially like the Cowboys game. But it was unbelievable how that guy was able to find 5 yards of open space in any coverage, it seemed like. It was just crazy. And he's making a gorgeous catch after gorgeous catch. He's got incredible body control. I just think Romeo Dobbs is he's huge. I think people really sleeping on him. And I don't think we would have been nearly as successful last year without him. Yeah, you could plug somebody else in his position if he wasn't there, and I'm sure some of those catches are made, but he had some really special catches. And I haven't even gotten to the Carolina game. I know he had some jaw droppers in that one, and he was open all day against the Cowboys. So I just want to give Dobbs some love. I just think, a lot of these guys are entering their third year also. I know they're more pro ready, but still, some of these guys, it used to be traditionally third year was the pop year, right? So let's just see what happens, because I think he's got a bright future, man.
Well, I do think it's long overdue, because you're right. Every time Dobbs is mentioned, it's kind of like, I don't really know. And I don't mean to do that. It's just, in every given conversation, that's just kind of where I'm at with him. But I mean, he's our number one wide receiver right now. I mean, that's just what he is. I mean, again, when we looked at, if we had, and again, I'm saying number one in terms of he is our top receiver. I don't mean in terms of whatever we talked about before. I don't want to send everybody into a tale. You said, no, just relax. He is our top receiver as of right now. I mean, you could say that that's debatable, that it just kind of ended that way and injuries or whatever the case. But I mean, it is what it is, I think he loves, I hate to say favorite receiver, but if I had to guess, I would say favorite receiver. They work together more than anyone. I've said before, he works harder than anyone. And yeah, I mean, he's a phenomenal receiver, and he deserves the credit, and I appreciate you calling in and saying that, because it does need to be said. I don't mean for the show to just keep crapping on him. I think a lot of the time I just look at ceiling, and I feel like if everybody reached their ceiling, Dobbs would be behind probably Watson, Reed, and Wicks would be my guess. Maybe not Wicks. Maybe not. They're a similar kind of receiver. I just think Wicks has got some pretty special footwork. But yeah, I mean, and again, that might be worth looking into a little bit more closely in terms of, let's find the special in Dobbs rather than just speculating that he doesn't have it, which is a little bit unfair. It's more because I'm just kind of going off the cuff. I mean, none of this is really a well-researched thing. It's just kind of it's a gut thing. It's a GF, man. It's gut feeling. Everybody's favorite stat. But no, he's been a big help to us. You're right. We would not be the same team without him. Mentioned Wicks is a very reliable target, as is Dobbs. And, maybe not super reliably elite, but I mean, he had one bad game. It was against Las Vegas. As far as his grades go, it was a 51. Now, there's a ton of 60s mixed in here. Actually, there were a few other 50s, but they're kind of high 50s, whatever. It doesn't matter. If there's one thing I could say about Dobbs that gets me the most excited, and that I guess I appreciate the most, is what I mentioned the other day, and that is 2 of his best games came in the playoffs. His absolute best game was against Dallas. One of his other best games was against San Francisco, when a lot of other people did not have their best game. He showed up as much, if not more, than anybody else when push came to shove. And he had 6 targets, 6 receptions, 151 yards, and a touchdown against Dallas. And then 6 targets, 4 receptions, 83 yards against San Francisco. He went out and absolutely tore it up, especially Dallas, because he ran half as many snaps and performed as well as he did. So, yeah, I mean, Dobbs right now is the guy. Wicks is going to have to earn it if he wants to take that spot. You know, Watson has to earn it. Reed has to earn it. I know they play kind of different positions-ish, but I mean, to officially take the mantle of who is our top receiver, you know, it's kind of, I guess it's kind of like how I look at the division. The division champs are Detroit. They are the champs. If I had to guess, I'd say the Packers take it back, but you got to show them the respect that's due. That's Dobbs. Dobbs is our number one guy. If everybody stays healthy, do I think he stays number one? Probably not, but maybe, because he's freaking good.
Real quick, I want to finish that point. I'm sorry, run out of time, but what I was saying is the receivers that come out at the top of the draft class lately have been much more pro-ready. I think that's not really debatable, just because of the way they're running, you know, more pro systems, and these guys are training. It's a whole other thing than what it was 10 years ago. But that being said, I don't know that, is it that much different for the guys further down in the draft? I don't know. But what I was saying is the traditional 3 years, you know, or like Adams and countless receivers, that third year was always the benchmark. And, you know, we've kind of not talked about that anymore because so many of these guys are pro-ready from Jump Street, or at least a hell of a lot closer than they were, you know. So, while I think that's true, I also think we've got some guys that might fit a little bit more into that older mold of, you know, year 3 being the real everything clicking year. Maybe it won't be, but I could definitely see how it could be. Dobbs and Watson are going to be those guys this year. So, you know, I think on the one hand, we're used to like Jamar Chase and some of these guys that pop up immediately. And that's kind of become the new standard. But is there any data to support that the third year is still the big time year for some of these wide receivers? Or is my thinking just really outdated on this? Has the receiver position writ large become much more pro-ready regardless of the round and the school you're drafted from? Or is that just like your top, you know, 10 prospects or whatever from big time schools that are actually going out there and producing? Because if it is, you know, there's still some validity to the third year wide receiver thing. It's awfully good for us that 2 of our best receivers are entering their third year. So just curious about that. Just want to finish that comment. So thanks, buddy. Look forward to your response.
Well, I guess I have 2 thoughts off the top of my head. And again, I appreciate the giving me some topics to further explore, because that would be a good one to look into. First of all, I think it's position specific. And I do think wide receivers, especially today, tend to come into the NFL pretty ready to go. My other thought would be that I view the third year thing slightly differently, and that it's maybe less to do with year 3 is when they're at their best, although it certainly can be. I think the general consensus isn't that that's when they're at their best. It's more so that that's when you can form an opinion. In other words, if you can't do it by year 3, that's when we kind of are like, all right, you just can't do it. It doesn't mean that we don't really expect much in the first 2 years, and then year 3 is when we expect you to explode. It's, you know, hopefully you can do it year 1. If you can't, we want you to do it year 2. Certainly you have to do it by year 3. And I know we looked into it somewhat recently, something to do with, I think year 2 is the biggest jump. We just did something. I wish I could just remember stuff, man. I'd be able to rattle off answers rather than having to redo everything. I know it is position by position, but I think year 2 is generally the biggest jump, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I think that's the way I view kind of, and that's not necessarily true. We see guys beyond year 3 that break out. I just think it's one of those things where odds of success drop very, very low if you don't do it by year 3. So you can kind of create an idea that I think maybe it's done. And you're going to be right more often than wrong. Anyways, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Thank you guys for calling in. I wasn't planning on even doing this tonight, and then I just real quick checked it to see how many calls there were, and there was 9 sitting there. So I was like, all right, got a good flurry. So we are back to 0. If you guys want to call back in, we can do it again tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.